The sweet aroma of tea wafted through the sunroom in the twilight hours. Rebecca Morgan sank deep into the large wicker chair, unconsciously resting her hand on her belly. 3 months pregnant. Hoping and praying that this time would be different, she gazed out at the vast farmland stretching before her. Early summer in Virginia was as beautiful as a painting. This place, not far from downtown Charlottesville, was wrapped in an otherworldly silence. Rebecca never imagined this life when she ran her small flower shop in downtown Charlottesville. Her modest but free existence surrounded by flowers changed dramatically after meeting David. "Miss, I've brought your drink," said Doris, the maid, bringing her usual herbal tea. Having served the house for over 20 years, Doris was an old-fashioned woman who couldn't quite hide her somewhat difficult disposition. Still, since learning of Rebecca's pregnancy, she hadn't missed a single evening of preparing her special herbal tea. Sometimes Rebecca felt uneasy, sensing unspoken thoughts behind this kindness. "Thank you, Doris. It smells lovely today too." Rebecca smiled as she accepted the cup. The warm ceramic reminded her of her childhood home. Among the herb fragrances, she detected rosemary and chamomile, along with some unfamiliar plant scents. Her husband David, who worked at the University of Virginia Medical Center, had been staying late at work supervising a major construction project. The conscientious family man called every night to check on Rebecca and the baby. It was a relief when her mother-in-law Patricia suddenly suggested, "You should rest at the farm during this time." This Georgian-style mansion in the Foxfield district, boasting 150 years of history, stood on a prestigious farm. Its white pillars and wide veranda adorned with seasonal flowers looked like a movie set. The property included a generations-old riding club facility. On weekends, local notables gathered to ride horses, creating a scene straight out of the traditional South. "Mother, dinner is almost ready." Patricia Morgan entered the room with grace that belied her 65 years. Born into a prominent Southern family and managing a farm with a century-old riding club, she exuded a distinctive elegance. Her perfectly styled white hair and understated yet fine jewelry spoke of her breeding and upbringing. "I've prepared a special dinner tonight. Your favorite pot roast. And I've baked your father's beloved pecan pie." Rebecca sensed an inexplicable tension beneath the surface kindness. Still, she continued trying to truly connect with her mother-in-law. After experiencing 2 miscarriages, she finally conceived this time. For this child's sake, she yearned to strengthen family bonds. The hallway was lined with generations of Morgan family portraits. What caught Rebecca's eye was a photo of a man who looked identical to her husband David. Thomas, David's twin brother who died in an accident 10 years ago. Thomas's presence, whom her mother-in-law had apparently doted on, still cast a long shadow over the house. Sometimes Rebecca noticed Patricia standing before the portrait, gazing at it for long periods. Her silhouette carried an irretrievable sense of loss. At dinner, her father-in-law Walter, a retired veterinarian, quickly excused himself saying he had work in the study. Though always gentlemanly toward Rebecca, he maintained a consistently deferential attitude in front of his wife Patricia. Through the window, she could see Joe the gardener working. A former pharmacist, he perfectly maintained the vast garden's plants. He was particularly knowledgeable about medicinal plants and was often seen in deep discussion with her mother-in-law. The red lights of the 24-hour security cameras blinked quietly. What were these watchful eyes, installed throughout the mansion, guarding? The contrast between the latest security system and the aged mansion's atmosphere created a somewhat discordant impression. Rebecca felt slightly dizzy as she set down her teacup. David had promised to come home early tomorrow. She wanted to believe everything would be all right. The trees in the garden swayed in the night wind, casting ominous shadows into the room. But she didn't know that this night would be the beginning, and that this elegant southern mansion would soon become the stage for her never-ending nightmare. Morning light streamed into the Morgan family garden. David, unusually, sat by Rebecca's bedside before leaving for work. Though he normally headed to the site early, today he wore an expression suggesting he had something to say. "I'll be late tonight, but I've taken tomorrow off." Though sensing something odd about his words, Rebecca gently held her husband's hand. She couldn't bring herself to ask about the slight trembling she felt in his palm. "Have a good day." David quietly closed the door. Through the window, she watched his car travel down the farm's long private drive. His vehicle, illuminated by the morning sun, looked somehow ephemeral. Breakfast was in the sunroom, an unwavering Morgan family tradition. The table was set with Southern traditional biscuits and gravy, seasonal fruits, and a large pot of coffee. "Did you sleep well?" Patricia's voice was softer than usual. Rebecca could see her fingers trembling slightly on the lace tablecloth. "Yes, very well." In reality, she had woken up several times during the night. The lukewarm wind rattling the windows had sounded like whispers. During the morning, Rebecca walked through the mansion. This 150-year-old house still held many rooms unknown to her. Down the west hallway on the second floor was a locked room. Known as Thomas's room, no one had been allowed to enter this space since the accident 10 years ago. Rebecca stopped in front of the hallway portrait. Thomas's smile, David's twin brother, shone as if alive. Next to it was a photo of a younger Patricia. In the mother's gaze at Thomas, one could almost sense a kind of madness. "Lunch is ready." Startled by the sudden voice behind her, Rebecca let out a small cry. Turning around, she found Doris standing expressionless. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to startle you." Mid-sentence, a shadow moved outside the hallway window. Joe the gardener was picking something in the herb garden. In his hand was an unfamiliar purple flower. Lunch was light. Patricia encouraged Rebecca to rest well for the special dinner tonight. In the afternoon, while reading her favorite book in the sunroom, Doris unusually initiated conversation. "Miss, if you ever feel something isn't right." Her words were cut off by Patricia's appearance. "Doris, how is the tea preparation coming along?" Her mother-in-law's voice held an unfamiliar sharpness. As twilight fell, the mansion's atmosphere began to change. Footsteps crossed the usually quiet hallways. From the kitchen wafted the smell of cooking more elaborate than usual. At 8 o'clock, the dinner bell rang. The dining room was set with traditional Southern fare. Pot roast, cornbread, buttermilk biscuits, and Patricia's special pecan pie. The table's setting was perfect, with inherited silver cutlery laid out. "Tonight is special," Patricia's voice echoed through the hall. "Maintaining this house's traditions is very important." Rebecca felt a slight unease at these words. Walter ate just a few bites before excusing himself as usual with work in the study. His departing back seemed to carry the weight of knowledge. At 9 o'clock, Doris brought the special herbal tea. The same fragrance as always. But tonight was different somehow. Her hand felt strangely heavy as she accepted the cup. Mother, isn't this tea a bit bitter? It's your imagination. This is a blend I specially selected. After midnight, Rebecca began feeling intensely drowsy. Her steps climbing the stairs felt like someone else's. On the second-floor hallway, she looked up at Thomas's portrait one last time. In that moment, his smile seemed to distort. David. Whispering her husband's name, Rebecca opened her bedroom door. At 1 a.m., she awoke to severe abdominal pain. Outside the window, the full moon shone ominously, and tree shadows danced on the walls. From the hallway came multiple footsteps and whispers. And somewhere in the distance, what sounded like an ambulance siren. That was Rebecca's last conscious memory. When she next opened her eyes, she lay in a stark white hospital bed. Placing her hand on her stomach, Rebecca screamed. The hospital room door opened, and David entered with a pale face. Immediately after, a police officer appeared. Mrs. Morgan, the officer picked up a tablet. Do you know anything about this security camera footage? As the video began playing, David completely lost his words. Morning light streamed into the hospital hallway. I'm Detective Sarah Collins, in charge of investigating Rebecca Morgan's case. The middle-aged female detective began speaking with a gentle southern accent that couldn't mask her underlying strength. Blood tests from Rebecca's emergency admission revealed multiple drugs. A combination of sleep-inducing herbs and substances that could potentially cause miscarriage. Security camera footage from the Morgan house was arriving at investigation headquarters one after another. First, please tell me the details of what happened when the incident occurred. Rebecca's testimony in the hospital room was fragmentary. The special herbal tea, her mother-in-law's unusual behavior, and her memories just before losing consciousness. We received a call from Doris at 12:45 a.m., Detective Collins continued while reviewing her notes. An ambulance had already been requested by that time. In the room next to Rebecca's, David sat with his face buried in his hands. His phone records showed several suspicious calls between him and his mother on the day of the incident. I don't understand either. What mother? David's voice trembled. Detective Collins noticed tears in his eyes. The mansion investigation began in earnest after noon. From the kitchen, tools presumably used for making herbal tea were confiscated. Among the dried herbs were plants known to potentially induce miscarriage. I managed these plants, Joe the gardener began quietly testifying before the investigators. But I was instructed to use them by... At that moment, Patricia's lawyer appeared and stopped any further testimony. Doris's testimony revealed new aspects of the case. Strange occurrences in the mansion began 6 months ago. She produced an old notebook. It contained detailed records of Patricia's behavior and unusual visitors. Every Wednesday afternoon, Madam would invite unknown persons into the study. Doris continued, removing her glasses with trembling hands. And from Master Thomas's room, baby items were being carried out. During the investigation, Thomas's room was opened. The space, which no one had been allowed to enter for 10 years, contained startling evidence. Baby clothes, toys, and a bundle of handwritten letters, all telling the hidden past of Thomas. The DNA test results are in. Detective Collins opened the file with a grave expression. It's been confirmed that Thomas Morgan had a child who would now be 9 years old. Rebecca tried to process this fact from her hospital bed. So my pregnancy. Yes. Your child would have been second in direct line to the Morgan family. Patricia's phone records revealed even more shocking facts. For several months, she had been in frequent contact with a law firm specializing in adoption. She had been secretly preparing to obtain custody of Thomas's child. Mother, why? David's voice echoed hollowly in the hospital corridor. A week after the incident, it was discovered that a secret family meeting had been held at the Morgan house. Present were Patricia, David, and the family lawyer. The topic: Morgan family inheritance issues. Records showed that David had strongly protested against his mother that day. The master was deeply troubled after learning of Madam's plans. Doris testified to the police about witnessing David crying alone in the study. But he could never defy Madam. That was the law of this house. The mansion's security cameras captured decisive moments from the night of the incident. Patricia and Joe's interaction in the herb garden. The preparation of herbal tea in the kitchen. And multiple figures moving in front of Rebecca's room late at night. As new evidence arrived at investigation headquarters, the case's outline became clearer. It wasn't just an inheritance dispute, but a tragedy born from obsession and favoritism spanning generations. Our family has a saying, Patricia spoke during questioning with dignified composure. Only the firstborn son's bloodline can inherit this farm. That's been our law for over 100 years. From her hospital window, Rebecca gazed at the hill where the Morgan mansion stood. The white building that once seemed elegant now cast an eerie shadow. This will be our new beginning. She quietly placed her hand on her stomach. Tests showed the baby had miraculously survived. Outside the hospital room, Detective Collins could be heard giving instructions to a young investigator. Please reinvestigate all past Morgan family incidents. Especially Thomas Morgan's accident from 10 years ago. In the corridor, David was on the phone. Apparently speaking with a lawyer. His shoulders sank as if bearing a heavy burden. And still, unknown facts lay quietly sleeping within the mansion's old walls. In late August, under the blazing summer sun, Detective Collins returned to the Morgan farm. 3 months had passed since the incident, and the investigation was entering its final phase. Here's the accident report from 10 years ago. The file handed over by the young detective contained detailed records of Thomas Morgan's accident. Officially a simple traffic accident. However, the scene photos from that time showed unnatural traces. It was ruled a brake failure, but Detective Collins murmured while examining the old records. The maintenance record shows no abnormalities in the recent inspection. In the hospital's rehabilitation room, Rebecca carefully continued her walking exercises. Though the drugs had temporarily weakened her physically, the baby continued to grow steadily. Mrs. Morgan, new testimony has emerged. Detective Collins quietly sat down. 10 years ago, Thomas had a fiancée, Emily Blake. The only daughter of a prestigious family, still a college student at the time. Her existence had been completely erased from Morgan family records. She was pregnant. This fact came to light from Doris's old diary. Doris, the maid, had worked in this house for over 30 years. Her diary meticulously recorded truths invisible from the Morgan family's surface. Master Thomas strongly wished to marry Miss Emily. During police questioning, Doris finally opened up. But Madam Patricia had strongly opposed her son's marriage. The reason: Emily's family line wasn't as pure as the Morgans. 2 weeks before the accident, Thomas had given his parents an ultimatum. "We're leaving this house." The letter was found in Thomas's room. The truth about the accident was revealed through gardener Joe's testimony. Under Madam's orders, I tampered with the brake fluid. His confession was preserved on tape. But at that time, I never thought such an accident would. Joe's voice trembled. And now, Patricia's final testimony in court unraveled all mysteries. To protect this house's tradition, her voice hadn't lost its former dignity. I was willing to pay any price. In court, the truth about Thomas's hidden child was also revealed. After the accident, Emily secretly gave birth to a boy. The child was raised by adoptive parents. Now 9 years old, he didn't even know of his grandparents' existence. The child's name is Michael. David held his nephew's photo for the first time. He looks just like Thomas. Evidence continued to accumulate. Reports from private investigators hired by Patricia. Records of financial transactions with Emily's family. And the meticulous plans to eliminate Rebecca. Our child will enter the stable period this October, Rebecca quietly told David in the hospital garden. And it's twins. At these words, David couldn't help but cry. Rebecca, I'm so sorry. The Morgan mansion basked in early autumn sunlight. Its former grandeur lost, it stood merely as a quiet building. The trial results made front-page news. Patricia Morgan, sentenced to 12 years in prison. Joe received a suspended sentence in exchange for his testimony. And David decided to renounce his family headship. 1 year later, in a small house in a quiet Charlottesville neighborhood, Rebecca watched the flowers blooming in the garden while soothing her twin girls. Michael's coming to visit this weekend, David told his wife with a gentle smile. Regular visits with Michael had been arranged with the understanding of his adoptive parents. Doris chose to work in this new house too. I want to watch these children grow up. The dark shadow had disappeared from her expression. And the old Morgan mansion was designated to be preserved as a state historical building. The tradition that had continued for over 100 years came to an end, and a new history was about to begin. Look, Rebecca pointed at the twilight sky while holding the twins. 2 white birds flew freely. Our story starts from here. David gently embraced his family. The former nightmare had transformed into genuine hope. The new blood of the Morgan family had been freed from its bonds and began flowing freely and strongly. Far away on the hill, the old mansion quietly welcomed twilight. Thus ended the tragedy born of Southern tradition and custom. Yet in people's memories, this story would be told for a long time to come. It was a tale of madness born from obsession, and simultaneously, a story of new life and hope.